Hey gang, happy Sunday. It's Leanne here, and I just finished the King Runners 10K. It's a 6.2 mile run that starts at, and I wanted to talk to you about, for some of you that know, I have ulcerative colitis, which is an autoimmune disease where the immune system attacks the colon, and I've had it for over 10 years. And in 2015, it became severe, so much so that I needed to have colon removal surgery, which has left me with a permanent ostomy. So I want to talk today and use today's mini training to talk about those of you who may be suffering from GI, gastrointestinal issues or dysfunction, and what happens when you want to do stuff like exercise, because I have spent over a decade figuring it out on my own, having to deal with a lot of different issues. And so I want to help you take the guesswork out of it, because I know the struggle. I know what it's like to be running in and out of the bathroom 30 plus times a day, not being able to eat anything because your colon is so irritated that it doesn't want to digest anything, and just having your whole life around trying to find a bathroom, not making it a bathroom, cramps, stabbing pain, abdominal pain, a lot of bleeding, not being able to eat or drink water just because everything is irritating to your gut. So with that being said, when I did exercise and I was in a flare, what I did was I started off slow. So I made sure that I did a long warm-up, nothing high intensity or extreme, just kind of getting my heart rate up, letting my gut adjust, letting my system adjust to the exercise, and I did that fasted. So I would do anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour of just very low intensity walking, slow jogging, Stairmaster. I had done long duration just because at the time I was doing marathon and long distance triathlon, so I needed to get in the distance. And then after about an hour, I would slowly start to fuel, like every 15 or 20 minutes, slow sips of an electrolyte and kind of like a carb drink. And over the years, brands I have used I've adjusted based upon what I felt. But basically, those are my two tips for you that are suffering through a flare right now, is that you start off really slow if you want to do exercise or low intensity activity. Of course, if you're not feeling good or you're too fatigued, it's best to rest. But if you're gonna start that first 30 minutes to an hour super low level. And if your gut can't handle anything, just go fasted. And then after about 30 minutes, see if you can slowly take in small sips. And I would say go with liquid. Chewing anything, having to digest anything is just going to be harder on your system. So start with something liquid, not too high sugar, but something with carbs. Like I like UCAN starch. With electrolytes, I use Ultima. So you could do like a carb electrolyte drink and then slowly start to fuel every 30 minutes to an hour. So I had found that worked best for me. And I had tried over the 10 years a lot of different ways. No food at all, totally bonked all the time. Food before activity, and then activity, bad news. Like my stomach would go crazy because if I ate and then I would get the gut going and the exercise and all that blood going in the body, that was like a bad combination for me. So what I found was best is, again, fasted 30 minutes to 60 minutes, very low level, heart rate super low, and then slowly starting to fuel after that. So that is my recommendation for people who are going through a flare or dealing with ulcerative colitis or Crohn's or any kind of GI dysfunction, IBS, which is irritable bowel syndrome, very different from what I had, which is IBD, which is irritable bowel disease. The disease is, there's no cure except for, in my case, removing your colon. You just take out the organ that is affecting your body. But that's another training for another day. So now that I have an ostomy, how is it different? So I know a lot of you out there do have an ostomy and you're still wanting to work out. And I've spoke to a lot of different groups here locally in Hawaii, and basically they're all fearful about trying to adjust their their new situation with an ostomy to exercise, being fearful of something that might happen because now they have an appliance they have to deal with, a medical device, that's what I call it. So now that I have an ostomy, yeah, it took me a little while, but now once you get your routine in terms of how your body functions, how your ostomy functions, what it is you like to do in terms of physical activity, and finding the appliances that work best for your skin, your area, because in Hawaii it's very humid, so I think for me, I go through supplies a lot faster than someone, say, in a colder climate. Also because I'm highly active, every day I'm moving a couple hours every day. I just have to change more frequently. So just when you're working with your doctor or your ostomy nurse, just take that with a grain of salt, because even though they mean well, unless they have an ostomy themselves, they're not gonna know they can only basically tell you what their recommendations based from people they see. But when you're in it and you have to do it every day and you have to put it on, take it off, and you have to like get dressed, go to work, do the things you like to do, you'll figure out a system that works best for you. So now fueling with an ostomy for me is different. I still, even though it's been, let's see, my surgery was December 7th, 2015. So even though it's been like, what is this? Going on 5 years? Oh my God, my 5-year anniversary will be this year. I still am getting used to the fact that, hello, I can fuel now regularly because I do not have ulcerative colitis anymore because I had surgery. So it's hard to get out of that mind frame. But there's different issues now with an ostomy. So I can fuel, yes, before I exercise, yes. But then you deal with stuff like, oh, when is the food gonna digest? When you have an ostomy, for me personally, I don't like it when I am exercising, if I do eat before I exercise, and during exercise, the pouch is filling up. I do not like that. It makes me uncomfortable. I do a lot of high intensity. I like to do jumping. I teach spinning. I do a lot of running. I do swim, bike, run stuff. So I don't want to deal with that. So for me personally, I kind of have worked it out to where I've been experimenting lately with, like, I do a little bit of coffee, like maybe 4 ounces of coffee, and I mix in collagen protein powder, and I mix in an MCT oil powder. And I kind of shake that up in my 4 ounces of coffee, and then I drink that. So it gives me a little, more importantly for me, I'm trying to get in my protein every day so I can conserve my lean muscle mass, because I do a lot of cardio. I'm trying to preserve whatever muscle I have. And again, that's another training for another day as well, because I've been following my lean muscle mass using the InBody machine. It's this machine that kind of gives you a breakdown of everything: lean muscle mass, water weight, bone density, all this stuff. And so I've been experimenting and working with my osteopath in terms of, okay, when I'm not mindful of protein and I'm just working within like a macronutrient or calorie range, I lose a lot of lean muscle mass. So then we decided, okay, let's try and work on really focusing on getting my protein every day. So I try to get 140 grams protein every day for me personally. Again, that's different for everybody, but because of that, because I was going to run a 10K today, that's what I decided to do, because I've been experimenting through training. So the 2 to 3 scoops. I do 3 scoops because I want 35 grams of protein in 4 ounces of coffee. And I do 1 scoop of the MCT oil powder. And I had a video on that of the stuff that I'm using because it's a pumpkin spice flavor. So check my other IG lives for that. But I took that really, and I tanked that about 30 minutes before I started today's race. Now, that's another thing. That's preference. If I got up 2 hours before the race, and I did that, I could probably, if I got up 2 hours before a race, I could probably have a little bit of meal, because then it would digest through, I would change my ostomy pouch, and I'd be ready to go. But man, I ain't trying to do that. I'm trying to sleep. For me, race nerves get to me, so what I try to do is I like to try and leave as least amount of time as possible for me, like lingering around before a race, because then my wheels would just get spinning, and it'll just be like, and my husband hates that, because if he's dropping me off, I'm always like, not rushing, but like today I got to the race like 10 minutes before the race start. That's perfect. But he was like, oh my God, it's so close, and the traffic and da-da-da. He hates rushing, so we're kind of opposite in that way. But like today I did that, and again, immediately. Not immediately, but as far into the race, I started off pretty aggressive. I didn't use that slow build because in a 10K, I was a little time focused, goal focused today, so I couldn't really slow warm up and build into it. So I noticed right away my ostomy pouch started to fill up. And again, that's a little bit of thing that bothers me, but I put it out of my mind because I'm like, you know what, it's a short race. It's going to be over an hour and change or less, and so just deal with it. So that's a whole nother mental side of it when you have an ostomy. So I'm just talking out loud because I know if you're dealing with what I'm dealing with, you kind of feel the same thing too. So with that'll be another training as well. I have lots of trainings on GI stuff because I have, like I said, over 10 years. But I knew that might happen, right? Because I didn't save enough time before I woke up to digest my food. So I kind of already knew through experience. And then also last night, I decided to try a different experiment. So I had a little bit of pasta, which I never do. But I've been pretty low carb for a couple weeks now. So I wanted to have a little bit of pasta because I really wanted to see how it would affect me. And again, because of dinner last night, you don't digest your food immediately. It takes like a couple of days. So I knew that being different, that being a little bit more just different foods than I would want to try to eat or used to eat, my system would be a little bit different. So I knew with that. So today what I did was I made sure I wore like a long t-shirt and not like I wasn't trying to be cute. Because I knew in case it would fill up that I wouldn't want to be like, for me, I get paranoid or I get self-conscious about it. And I've had my friends tell me, you can't even tell, don't even worry. And I know I tell all my clients, and as well that you're your worst inner critic, right? That you're only like looking at yourself like super close, and not everybody is like looking at you that close, but still, I've learned over my life experience that you gotta do what's comfortable for you, and if it makes you feel comfortable to do things a certain way and it's not hurting anybody or yourself, then you do it. So today I was like, okay, this might happen. I don't want to have to worry or be constantly like running and trying to worry about like, oh my god, this and that. So I just wore a long t-shirt. So when it did, I could tell, but nobody else can tell because again I was wearing a long t-shirt. So with that being said, let me know if you're out there and you want to chat more about fitness wellness programming for people with GI dysfunction. Again, I've been in it, diagnosed with ulcerative colitis in my mid-20s, and for a really long time I was in denial. I wasn't ready to face the diagnosis, and I didn't want to learn anything about it because I was in denial. So I fought it for a really long time, and then eventually, I don't like to say it got the best of me, but it broke me down so much so that I finally needed to have surgery. And so now that I've been through and I've come around the other end, I like to see myself as an advocate for other people who are suffering the same. I wish I would have done a lot of things differently, right? Wisha, coulda, woulda, but at this point there's nothing I can do. So I just like to be an example for others that even though you may be going through this life-changing medical situation, there is always a positive light at the end of the tunnel. That now that I have an ostomy, unless I tell you I have an ostomy, you won't know I have an ostomy unless you see it. I tell you it, something happens. But so really there isn't anything that people with an ostomy cannot do. I swim, I do yoga, I do aerial yoga, I lift heavy, I've done CrossFit, I've done high intensity, I've done circuit. So if you just have questions, if you're newly diagnosed, if you're not sure about medicines, my biggest tip for you is to be open with your doctor and ask all the questions. I never asked any questions. I expected the doctor to know everything. And honestly, they don't really know anything besides above and beyond what they learn in a textbook and through patient experience. They really only know and get educated from people like us, patients who tell them. And again, for a really long time, I just was like, give me whatever medicine you can give me so I can go out in the world and do all the things that I want to do. I did not research any of it. I didn't care what they said about you should take a break, you should rest, you shouldn't do marathon, you shouldn't do triathlon, you need to be... I wasn't ready. But so I would like to save as much of your time as I can and suffering if you're out there to say, look, don't be afraid to talk to your medical team, work with them, be an advocate for yourself in terms of what are they telling you to take, why do they want you to take it, and take the side effects seriously. Because eventually I got to a point where I had tried every single pill, shot, infusion, everything, and nothing worked. So much so that they sent me to the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota, and the Mayo Clinic said, hello, you've reached the end of the line. This is it. Your ticket is up. You need to have surgery. So, and that seems like many moons ago. But I am like living my best life right now. You know, even though I know, poor thing. Don't be sorry. Feel sorry for me. You know, because it's like nothing has changed except I just do things a little bit differently. And in the beginning, it was a lot more overwhelming. But then now I can tell you, there's times where I forget that I have an ostomy. And I'm like, oh, okay. And that's when you know you've kind of like, you know, when you can go about your day and it's not always on your mind. Because when I was sick, my whole day, minute by minute, was managing my sickness. And when you're in it, you forget. Like, you think you're faking it till you make it until you're healthy, like how I am now. And you look back and you're like, oh my God, really, I was really messed up. And then all my friends tell me now, oh yeah, you're much better. Your mood is much better. You seem more happier. And I was like, really? When I you think you're doing a good job, but it does take a toll. And when you're sick on the outside, it eventually starts to manifest and rear itself on the outside. So I hope you have a wonderful Sunday. I would love to chat. If any of you even have family members doing the same, I would love to chat with them and help them through this, because we're a small group. It's a disease that's not highly talked about, and there's a lot of shame around it. And I'm trying to start the conversation. All right, well, have a great day, guys. Thanks so much. Bye.